Alejandro has come in with saddle problems, soft tissue discomfort on the nose of the seat. It's very common for men to have, especially on an aggressive race bike. So when I say that, the stack and reach, so the height and the length of this frame is quite long, it's quite low, like relative. So you can see a couple of things in terms of like context that's leading to pressure on the nose of the seat, and some compensation patterns that he's in that I'm going to start to take you through, just to sort of like let you know how my brain works when I'm looking at someone coming in with issues like this. So straight away, like my eyes are drawn to the fact his arms are like fully locked out. You're kind of like holding the handlebars, like almost uncomfortable on the seat is making you push heavy into the bars.
Yeah.
Because pushing like this is rolling your pelvis that way and taking pressure off the front. But from what I understand, as soon as you ride outside and start getting into it, that's when the pressure just like builds and builds and builds on the nose, and it's like, ow, this is hurty.
Yes.
Okay? And so then because there's this tension here, you can come around the side and you can see there's just this little, like, it sounds really funny, but it's almost like this kind of camel's hump at the top of the spine, and the shoulder blades are coming apart. So like as the rides become longer, the tension in the shoulders grows, and then this pressure in the back of the neck goes. So if I'm like, yo, Alejandro, look forward, you're gonna feel like you're craning your neck. But that's coming from the pelvis position. So down here, because he gets discomfort on the nose of the seat, you can almost, I'm just gonna exaggerate this by grabbing your hips. If you just kind of get a visual of almost like pulling back like this. So because he's uncomfortable here, he's pulling his pelvis back here, instead of, I'm just gonna get you to roll with this, right? Relax your lower back and imagine you were kind of bursting on a pea, right? So you'd be squeezing your pelvic floor. At the same time as just relax your elbows down slightly and then sink into your shoulders. So don't force anything from your lower back, but you see just how much more relaxed and how much more rotated forward his pelvis is. But there's a few problems with this. So first of all, it's probably uncomfortable in a seat, if I'm being honest.
Yes.
And because of the angle of the saddle, so you've dipped the nose of that seat down, you probably feel like the weight on the bars, it's like you're really struggling to not feel like you're falling forwards.
Yes.
So it's like, if you relax, you feel like you're gonna fall forwards, but it somehow feels better in your lower back and legs. But if you relax for any length of time, the pressure on the nose of the saddle grows so much that you're like, no, I'm gonna have to go back here.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're in this rabbit hole of constantly adjusting because you're trying to like create this barometer of like, I just wanna feel relaxed. But then if I make this adjustment, this problem goes away, but then it feels worse here. And then let's just like always kind of coming back around, like creating one issue after another, just by trying to solve something. So how do we unpick this and get to a point where things start to feel better? Well, for me, it's quite a stretched position. My tendency would be to be like, well, like first of all, if you're overextending in the shoulders and that's almost pulling you forward on the saddle, my interest would be in considering shortening the stem. But for me, at the same time, is there an opportunity to maybe put the saddle forward very slightly and level it off so you feel like you can actually sit and relax into it? Other things from like a body perspective, like I can just see how you're sitting. You're not extending very well from this middle part of your back either. Right. So if we could maybe do some suggestive work on loosening off this part of your spine so that you can actually extend. And the thing is, like, because you're so tight here, as you reach, it's pulling your pelvis like forwards. If you were able to keep this relaxed as you just open up your shoulder angle, the pelvis would be able to remain more neutral for much longer, and so then you'd feel more relaxed on the seat. Jump off just now, take a seat on the chair. Briefly interrupting this bike fit video, just to invite you to have a look at our Discord community. There is a link in the description of this video, and I'd love to see you there. In terms of adjustments that I want to make, first of all, I would be wanting to put the saddle forward slightly and maybe level it off to see if I can get Alejandro to go from almost this, I'm pressing the bars and rolling my pelvis backwards but sliding it forwards to take pressure off the soft tissue, to being able to relax more onto the bony tissue either side of the top of his leg. So if we make this like waist part of the saddle more available to the underside of his pelvis by tilting the saddle up very slightly and moving it forward, he might be able to actually relax his pelvis here and lean forward on the bars a bit better. And then once we get the pelvis more stable and feeling better, are these handlebars too far away, if that makes sense? Because what starts to happen when we move the saddle further and further forwards, two things: his center of mass is going to come forwards and he's going to lose the ability to generate tension from like the hips as well. So you do need to saddle back enough that all these muscles up the back of your legs actually work as well at the same time. So it's like we need to move this forward enough that it feels more underneath you, but we also need to make sure that we don't put it so far forward that we're just going to give you weird feelings in your quads, weird feelings in your hips. And then also then a center of mass problem when you're like, I feel too far forward, I don't feel good right. That's my thought process. Any questions? Any disagreements?
No, do you know what? I actually did have it further forward. I think I've just like over talked it or something, but it does keep sliding back.
The saddle itself keeps sliding back?
Yeah.
Oh, because the ears on the
Do you see what I mean?
clamp.
Do you see the way it clamps on? But
I want it more than a mil forward though. You know, we're talking like.
Oh no, yeah.
Like
for sure.
We're talking half an inch. Quite often when it comes to like adjustments in fit, half the time you just have to be brave enough to make a chunky adjustment and then just get on and have a look. It's just part of the process. So like, what is telling me that we're gonna move that forward half an inch? Like, honestly, just maybe a little bit of experience, and also like, I don't actually know what he's gonna, I've got an idea what he might look like when we put the saddle forward, but for me, the things that I wanna look at would be, does your spine look more relaxed when you're sitting on a saddle in what I believe to be a more supportive position for you?
Sure.
Because then I can always ask you, does that feel better?
Yeah.
Like, because I think a big thing in fit that's forgotten about is just me going to you like, how does that feel?
Yeah.
It's not just a number on a screen that we're looking at.
Sure, yeah. Okay. Sure.
Cool. Right, let's go. La sella, inclinazione, basso e anteriore. So the bike has to be level when we're adjusting, which is another thing that people don't take into account when it's like, what's that gonna feel like outside? Well, most of the time outside you're relatively level. And so then if I'm making the saddle level and the bike's not level, and you go outside and actually the saddle's pointing down a lot, then that's useless. Okay, so saddle's forward, saddle's slightly more level.
Yep.
Jump on please, sir. Bend those elbows down and relax. That looks like it's easier because you're getting more feedback from the nose of the saddle.
For sure.
So people would always be like, where should I feel the saddle? Well, for most guys, on a saddle like that, on a setup like this, you kind of want to feel the bony tissue either side the top of your leg. So like in here, you want to feel that, if you like, along the waist of the saddle. So to give you a visual on a similar saddle, this isn't the same saddle as Alejandro has, but it's very similar in terms of its like shape. It's quite short, it's got a relatively short waist with a lot of curve on it, and these are the bones either side the top of your leg here. You kind of want to feel them there, like on that waist, like that, and you can relax into that part of it.
Yeah.
On saddles like that, if you're not very comfortable, what tends to happen is very common where the waist gets really short and it's really curved. Unless you're comfortable to lean forward, the only option is to then shift your pelvis forward and roll back, which is what you were doing when you first came in. So when you first came in, your pelvis was here and here.
Yeah.
Now you're a bit further back and rolled forwards. So the net effect is, if you look at my thumb and imagine that's your spine, so before your spine is like almost pointing up to the ceiling, now your spine is kind of pointing forwards. So then when we come over here, your pelvis is rolled forwards, and then when I'm like, relax your neck, drop into your shoulder blades and just relax this, that sensation of craning in your neck is a lot less because your pelvis is rotated forward.
Yeah.
And so then there's like so much less tension through the spine as we go. What's going to make this feel really good for you is when you push down on the pedals, we want to make sure that the legs, so like muscles in the front, muscles in the back, and like muscles up in the hip, it's like we want to make you feel like you can really push from the hip. And so then if I'm like, right, just take the tension out of the elbows and just scooch back a tiny bit on that seat and really lean in as you push. How does the nose and saddle feel here compared to what you're after in your head in terms of like?
I mean, I definitely feel more supported. I feel like I'm sitting
On the right part?
on the right part of the saddle.
Right. So you don't feel any pressure on ball sack, basically?
No.
Really? Like nothing?
No, well, very little.
Yeah, like,
as compared to what it was before.
What you're doing now, and it's subtle, you're sitting forward on the right-hand side. I want to check the turbos level left or right, so just jump in. Even though that might seem a bit artificial, like genuinely, like in this case, I think the bike might be over, but like I get a lot of people that have problems on one side of the saddle. In this case, I think actually you're shifting forward on the right and that's pulling your left side in. But I'm still gonna double check the bike's actually level. But I also think moving the saddle down a tiny bit would help, because it's almost like when you get strung up a bit, you're here.
Yeah, okay.
And we put you down and relax and you're a bit more square. Your hips are facing that way, but the bike is square, so my right hip's forward now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then when you lean and add tension, it's gonna pull that right side even further forward. But your brain's like, well, I feel square, but I do feel a little bit more pressure on the left. But it's because this left side's getting pulled into here.
I see.
So what's causing you to like roll that hip out the way on the right and pull you forward? Is it maybe it's weak? Is it maybe you just don't have awareness? Is it maybe, remember when we added a bit of tension into the posterior chain by adding control into your foot?
Yeah.
Your leg squared up quite a lot and maybe we can cure it that way? Or are you just a little bit messed up, which is totally normal?
Could be.
Find out next week. To me, right, the right leg looks like it's maybe slightly compromised height-wise, but you look a bit more square in the saddle and you also look a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel like I'm, sitting
Off to
on
the
my
side
left
anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe from here we start to creep the saddle up until we notice the problem come back in.
Okay.
Be a common sense way of eking out the saddle height. But the thing is, like, there is an awful lot of be like, oh, the saddle looks low, but if you function well, then why would you have it higher? See what I mean?
Yeah.
Just stop pedaling there. Pedal backwards with your eyes closed. Why pedaling backwards? There's just less momentum and it's unfamiliar. And why eyes closed? Well, it's harder to keep awareness. Like, it's always easier to balance with your eyes open. So this is just highlighting some issues, right? Oh, we've got some smoothness going on there.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, and then bend your elbows and relax forwards. Okay, that's gonna work. Now pedal forwards normally with your eyes open, push in through your foot. So when you feel that insole pushing into the underside of your foot, I really want you to feel like you're pushing from your whole leg into that whole insole. Any bit of contact that you feel underneath your foot, push into all of that contact all at once from all of your leg, which actually feels more intuitive than you think. It's like when you squat, you just push the floor. It's kind of the same. There's this big kind of like mess around with, you're like, oh, I should be feeling like I'm pushing the pedal, but actually, like, you just want to push your foot because your foot's connected to the shoe, which is literally clipped into the pedal. So if you just focus on the bit you can control and coordinate, the fact that it's like tied into a circular bottom bracket and it's not going anywhere, that'll do the rest. You know, the interesting thing as well is, like, we don't really have much runway. If I could snap my fingers and maybe take 10 mil off your bike, you know, we could maybe look at this on the adjustable bike, for instance, right? But if we could take 10 mil off the length of the stem, it would be pulling you forward slightly less, so there'd be less preload rolling you. But this is the thing with this bike. I mean, we could go down the road of looking at spending like £400 or £500 literally on like changing, by the time you've changed the stem, paid for labour, it's maybe not 400 quid, but it's going to be at least 250 roughly, right? That's just like off the top of my head pricing. It's like a factored cost. It's like, well, you know, just as an example, it might well have been useful for you to come for a bike fit before, bro. Right. Little things I'm looking at that I would maybe like for you would be some extra stance width. Your feet are tied quite narrow and it's kind of causing this quite narrow position in your hip. If you were out here slightly, your knees would be going out a little bit less. So actually, if you jump off just there, I'm gonna put the saddle up. Okay, so oh yes, that's what feels good about it, right?
Yeah.
So see when you just relax and your body is relaxing almost into your arm bone. It's kind of like this look where the wrists look relaxed, the elbow can just like sink, and all of a sudden the tension comes out the shoulder blades.
Yeah.
Look, it's quite an extended bike, so you're always going to have an open shoulder angle. So there is always going to be a tendency for your shoulders to be, your shoulder blades to be slightly further apart than would be kind of like considered neutral. You know, so there's no popping of the shoulder blade there as such, but there's just so much less tension in this part that then coming back down from there, this looks more relaxed, you can relax there. So you're no longer in this position where there's so much like preload, essentially just this tension pulling you forwards onto the nose of the seat. All of a sudden you've got so much more control. And raising the saddle that little bit has helped you physically moved your hips further away from the top of the pedal stroke. So there's slightly more pelvic stability because you're not getting bumped around quite so bad by the top of the pedal stroke and the knee. So that's working. And then all the while, we've put your saddle forward so it's more underneath you, so you can just relax into it. And in this like specific circumstances, which is like, right, well, you're quite muscled in the hips. There's quite a lot of like muscle mass going on there.
Thank you so much.
So like, well, it's absolutely fine, sir. But I guess like all I mean by that is like, even like upper body wise, you're a little bit more built than the next cyclist would say. You need to feel like you can sit and relax into a saddle. And if the saddle's not far enough underneath your pelvis where it's not being made easily enough available to you to just sit and relax into here, instantly lose that control, because that sensation of getting pulled forward just rotates your pelvis so that your balls are getting nailed on the nose. And so then just taking some of that tension out basically and allowing you to feel like you can just relax and sit. It's like you can now lean forward so you can put your pelvis into a position where it can generate tension down this posterior chain. So muscles down the back of your legs would be called the posterior chain. So you've got like tension here and here. So you can just push and then just relax. And so then all these problems that you're dealing with and all these problems on the seat that you're dealing with should hopefully just be, I mean, I'm not promising you after 6 hours you'll come off the bike feeling like a bed of roses, but you'll probably feel a lot more like you've got that control and comfort over rides that are like, 2 to 4 hours long.
Absolutely.
Knowing you a little bit, probably what you're after here.
Yes, absolutely, for sure.
In this case, Alejandro was coming in complaining of discomfort on the nose of the seat. So the bike itself has been too stretched out, and the saddle position that he was having before was like kind of like typical, I've got pain on the nose of my saddle, jerry-rigged solutions.
Absolutely.
So like dipping the nose of the saddle away to take it away from the soft tissue, which ironically was making it worse. Because in order to offset a feeling of being pushed forward, you've moved the saddle even further back, which then puts your hip into an even tighter angle, which then puts you into this really nasty position. So like in this process with Alejandro, we've worked on stabilizing his pelvis and allowing him to relax into the saddle. And allowing you to relax into the saddle, in this case, moving it forward and leveling it off to make the waist of the saddle more available to the right bone structure for your anatomy on your specific bike, was the process that we worked through in order to get it to work. It's not like a blanket, right? If you've got sore balls on your bike, if you're a guy, bang that seat forward, level it off, you'll be fine, because the position of the handlebars in your case was right enough that we were able to work through that problem pretty well for you.
Yeah.
What I would say I focused on here was I want to see less tension in the shoulder blades, because the shoulder blades coming apart was telling me, right, well, something feels too far away here. So it just worked out really nicely that moving the saddle forwards reduced the reach enough that it felt good. And actually now I don't know that I would reduce the stem length as well, because it looks like it's actually quite a nice balance for the position that you're after, in terms of, you need to be able to feel like you can still lean forward so that you can generate tension down the back of your body, so when you push, you feel like you've got a good push. But we don't want you to feel like you're so far forward that it's pulling your pelvis onto the nose of the seat and loading up your balls and making them sore when you ride too. What I'm saying is that we got to this solution by focusing fully on allowing you to feel like you could relax into the seat. And by focusing on that and getting control that way, hopefully we've given you like ongoing solution to your issue.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel way more comfortable on the saddle. And I don't feel like I'm slipping off, pushing onto the bar.
You feel planted, because so you feel stable, you feel relaxed.
Yeah.
Please, any questions, drop them into the comment section. I'd love to get back to you. I'd love to make more content based around what you actually want to watch. So please make sure that you put a little comment in with your questions, and then we can have a look at them and keep working forward. Thanks very much for watching. I've been your host, Dougie Shaw. This is Alejandro, and Will's in the camera. We'll see you next time.